Nobody believes in ghosts, but everyone is afraid of them. Ed Warren. Every year, over 240 million 911 calls are made in the US. But how many of those calls are truly about the paranormal? Today on I Can't Move, we dive into real-life paranormal police encounters you've never heard of. Welcome to the I Can't Move podcast. I'm James.
And I'm Jorge.
How you doing, broski?
I'm doing pretty good, man. I cannot
Glad to hear.
complain.
I mean, you could, but
I could, but I'm not going to.
it's Friday night when we're recording this, and I'm off this weekend, so it feels real good.
Yes, this is a really good time. This is a really good time to talk about it. It's nice and dark outside. So
Yeah.
for those of you who are listening, get yourself some nice hot cocoa or some warm apple cider, curl up in a blanket, and listen to our podcast as we get ready to dive into paranormal encounters involving the police.
Oh yeah, and we've got some scary. At least for me, I have some body cam footage I want to show you guys, and it is unbelievable how real it is. I mean, there's no editing or anything like that. I mean, this stuff is wild. But
Yeah, I'm ready for that.
yeah, I'll admit, I know I'll get to this, but when I did initially check it out, so I had it set up. I mean, I couldn't believe it. I was gasping. So the case I wanted to talk about that had some paranormal stuff in it was the case of Chris Watts. Now, Jorge, have you heard of this case before?
I absolutely have.
It made national news for what this guy did to his pregnant wife and his two children. So a man named Chris Watts murdered his pregnant wife and his two daughters, Bella and Celeste. And a little background was Chris and Shanann, his wife's name is Shanann. They married in 2014 after a few years of dating. And they had two children named Bella. She was born in 2013, and Celeste, born in 2015. And Chris was employed by a patrolling company, and his wife, Shanann, was employed at a marketing company. On August 13th, Shanann was driven home from a work trip by a coworker named Nicole Atkinson, and she dropped her off at home at about 2 a.m. Chris was already home with his two daughters when she arrived. The following afternoon, Shanann's coworker Nicole became worried about her when she didn't respond to her text messages, and she didn't go one of her doctor's appointments because Shanann was pregnant. Nicole called the Frederick Police Department, where they live, their local police department, and Chris Watts at work to tell them about her concerns for Shanann's safety. The police arrived at Watts' home, and Chris gave them permission to search it. The police found items such as Shanann's wedding ring, her car keys, and even her car was in the garage. The following day, Chris Watts' pregnant wife and his daughters were officially reported missing. So, what's eerie about this case is why it made national news. Chris was on the local news where he was from, and he pleaded to the camera to his wife and his children to come home. Now, all the while, he had murdered them. And so the whole scenario was Chris was having an affair with a coworker. And they assumed that on the night Nicole came back from her work trip, the conversation was had about separating or getting a divorce. And within that argument, Chris had strangled his wife to death. And while he was carrying her down, her body down the stairs to put her in his car to dispose of her body, his two children woke up and saw. And then as it progressed, he got them all in the truck, and he ended up strangling both of his daughters as well. It's a really, really horrible, gruesome story. And they recently released audio of Chris when he's incarcerated, admitting to how he did in detail of how he strangled his children, what he said. It's really, really hard to listen to. It's really disgusting. And this guy makes you sick. But the point was that he went on TV and was like, yeah, I hope my wife and kids are safe. Please come home. I don't know where they went. And he cooperated with police this whole time. But so it's really, really disturbing. But what what is paranormal about this is they release body cam footage. So whenever there's a case and they release the body cam footage, everybody wants to see that, right? Because it's raw, it's real. And what's strange about this is when they did the initial search of the house, there was a canine involved in it. Now, I don't know if this lady was part of the police department, but she was a canine handler. And they took the dog inside the home to smell and sniff for the missing family members. And part of the film, there's two parts I want to point out. The first one is being that when the officer's body cam, when you walk in, you can see on the left side, this is after the crime has been committed and after he has dumped the bodies. There is a little girl you can see clear as day, like kind of a, what would you call that? An apparition run down the stairs. And the other one is when they're searching, I believe it's the mother's closet, you hear laughter, like a child's laughter in the closet. And even the canine handler reacts. So let me pull up this footage here and we'll take a look at it. Okay, so this is the body cam footage of when the officers are initially searching the home. This woman right here, she's the canine handler, and the point of view is, of course, is from the officer.
Now, really quick before you play the video, where did this happen again? Like, do you remember what city and state this was?
This was in Wisconsin.
Okay.
I jumped when the dog was barking because it does something to the audio. So I'm going to pause right here. So this left part up here, just keep your eye on that. And yeah, just keep your eye on it. Okay. Did you see that?
No, you're gonna have to rewind that
Okay.
because it's like a blink and you'll miss it.
Yeah. Yes. Do you see that?
Do you think you could rewind it and like pause it on?
Yeah. So let me.
Because I'm not, I'll be honest, my
Okay. So we have right here, look to your left. Right here. It's like moving as you do it, but it's like a little girl looks like in a nightgown running down the stairs.
oh my gosh, that
Do you
just,
see that?
dude, yeah, that
Dude,
actually just gave me chills just now.
my heart dropped when I saw that. Okay. And I forgot to mention this earlier. So the female here, the canine handler. So I don't know if there's another officer in there that we just cannot see. But in just a moment here, you will see her go over here towards this table over here. And then, of course, you have the point of view from the officer with a body cam. And then you'll see a face in the mirror, like a reflection. And it looks like a female. And it looks like the female of the homeowner, the mother that was murdered. So it's hard to tell. There could be someone standing there, but there's some speculation surrounding this. So when she moves over to the left here, that's when you'll notice. Right there. You see that? So I'm not positive about this one, but I mean I do see it.
Yeah, you'll have to pause it whenever
Yeah.
you see the face.
Yes. All right, let me. So right there. Who is that?
That's the officer.
Is it the officer?
Yeah, that's the officer. Because even in the mirror, you can see the motions that he's making
Well,
uh
it's a female.
with his hand or her, whoever. But like you can see yeah, that's a female officer. That's her reflection.
So that was people were saying, "Oh, it looks like a female," but it's hard to tell because she's
Yeah,
standing there. Because there's
yeah.
another officer right here at the door.
hmm
So that one's like, yeah, but the girl running down the stairs, it's
Yeah, that one definitely gave me chills. But I think that
the second
the,
one. Yeah,
that's
it,
the
it
female officer.
it could be the female or it's someone else that just walked out. That could have been in the building or the house already. The second one, I believe it's the mother's closet,
Okay.
and you'll see here. she has the dog in there. The dog is, I don't know if the dog's prompting or something, but the dog definitely picks up something and you'll hear laughter. So just listen.
Yes. What's that? Go in there and step on that little blue thing and see if that's where that is. Yeah, it sounded like a kid toy.
Oh, did you hear it?
I was turning up my headphones so I
Okay, it
could
might be
try
coming
to.
here. I'll play it again. So it does kind of sound like a kid toy, but it's funny they can't confirm it. And it's the more I listen to it, the more it doesn't sound like a toy. Is it hard to hear on your end?
Yeah, it is kind of hard to hear on my
Okay.
end.
Here, let me all right, so go to I just sent on the chat. Go to 1225.
Oh man. Oh my gosh. No.
Yeah.
Dude, my body reacted.
Okay. So like I said, I listened to it multiple times, and the more I listened to it, it didn't sound like a toy. And I don't believe she confirms that. I know she says press on that, but it doesn't do it again. And you just think, you know,
Yeah, so for anybody listening, if you're having a hard time hearing the audio, we'll definitely make sure to put the
yeah,
link in the show notes. The time mark is 12:25 for you to be able to hear it. But yeah, now that I pulled it up on my actual on my end over here, clear as day. At first I was thinking like maybe it wasn't as clear, but I think it's just because there's just maybe a technical
yeah,
difficulty going on. But yeah, once I pulled it up for me, it it's
it's
I'll be
chilling.
honest with you, it didn't sound like a toy.
Even the handler was like, wow, what was that?
Yeah.
Like, oh man. But
Oh,
the
time for me to
girl,
leave.
the girl now, I know people would say when she's moving in, like the dividers, like in the stairs, but I mean, dude, come on. That looked like a little girl in a little gown running down the stairs.
Yeah.
I mean, it's. I know we talk about this stuff because this is the paranormal podcast, but I mean that is wild, and it's horrible because of what happened.
Yes. And I mean, at the end of the day, even though we are interested in this stuff, at the same time, like your instincts are still going to kick in.
Yeah,
Your body's going to be telling you, like, hey, that's not normal. And you're probably going to react as such.
I mean, imagine if you were the responding officer and you saw that. I mean, I don't even know if I would say anything. I would just stare at that spot and think, "Is there anybody else here in the house?" No.
I kind of wonder if that gave off like any like red flags to anybody, like for the officer and the handler that experienced that, were they like,
Yeah,
now why would that happen? If they're
yeah.
just missing at this point.
I think how they were very professional,
Mhm.
but you can kind of pick up that watching the body cam because, like, is anybody listening? There's watch the whole thing. It's really you're really engrossed in it, but they're really quiet. It's almost like they can kind of feel what's going on. I know you'd be cautious inside a home. They're probably a little nervous. They might find a body or something or some hard evidence, but I mean, you can kind of feel the tension in the air with them. Like there's something off about the home. It's funny because it's a beautiful home, but there's just
Mhm.
something evil about it.
Yeah, one thing I also want to point out too is if you watch the body cam footage, he's giving a really good performance of playing the role of worried husband. I think it
Yeah,
makes it
he
even
is because
more
he just
disturbing.
seems like yeah, he seems like a dude.
Yeah.
Yeah, just like oh, this guy didn't do it. This his wife has got upset and left without her car or her keys and her purse
Hmm.
because she left all those items at the house.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Whenever you like know about what happened and then only to see him with that
yeah, and
performance that he brings.
we'll include some of the the footage when he's talking to the local news about his wife and missing kids. It's like manipulation, big time.
Oh,
And
100%. Yeah.
how he's so cold about it too, knowing that he did it is bizarre. But he did on August 21st. Watts was charged of 5 counts of first degree murder and also with an unlawful termination of a pregnancy and 3 counts of tampering with a deceased body. And on November 6th, Watts pleaded guilty to murdering his pregnant wife and kids. And on November 19th, Watts was sentenced to 5 life sentences, 3 consecutive, 2 concurrent, without the possibility of parole. And he also received an additional 48 years for terminating Shanann's pregnancy and 36 years for tampering with a deceased body. His bail was revoked. And he's currently serving his life sentences in Dodge Correctional Institute in Waupun, Wisconsin. Rightfully so. I guess his family didn't seek the death penalty, or her family, excuse me, because they didn't want anybody else to die.
I respect that, but I will also respectfully disagree.
Respectfully disagree. Yeah, firing squad.
Did he ever tell you, or not tell you, but did he ever give the reason why he killed his daughters?
I believe it was because they saw him drag their mother's body down the stairs. So I am assuming that they got into an altercation or argument after she was dropped off by her friend at 2 a.m. And then he had strangled her to death. And then as he was taking her body down the stairs, the kids woke up and they saw him do it. And then he made them get in the car with him as he got her body in the car. And I think it's really hard to listen to his audio about him telling it, but asking what he did. And then, yeah, it's terrible. I kind of got, emotional listening to that. And you just want to strangle him.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was one of my cases, man. It's tough, but I mean, the paranormal, it's there, and it's funny because this only happened a couple of years ago, and it's that little girl running down the stairs, just wow, and
Yeah.
the laughing is just
Haunting,
yeah,
gut wrenching. Yeah. Are you going to be able to play any of the footage of him giving his Grammy, or I'm sorry, Oscar winning performance?
Yeah, let me find it real quick. So we have here, this is the interview that he was on the local news, WFMY News 2 in Wisconsin. And this is his interview before he admitted killing his wife and kids.
The most important thing, like, I'm not sure, I'll just wait for you to ask questions, but like, I want, I want them wherever they're at. Like, I have no inclination of where they're at right now. Like, I've exhausted like every friend that I know of, and every friend that I have has called friends that Shanann has that maybe I didn't know about. And it's just like, it's vanished. Like, she's not, like, when I got home yesterday, it was like a ghost town. Like, she wasn't here. Could be here.
Think?
I have no idea like where they went.
I mean, you're right. Oscar Worthy is a good comment because even his voice is shaky. Like, I
Yeah.
have no idea where they went.
Yeah. He has that stress in his voice. He's stuttering a lot. I mean, it's actually really interesting because whenever you look at why somebody is stuttering, whether that's guilty or whether that's actually them being worried, I mean, that's the reason why obviously an investigation has to be done. But I mean, it's like if he hadn't confessed to anything or if he had not shown any holes in his stories, because I'm sure there probably was. But I mean, like he would have been able to probably get away scot-free if he had like a solid alibi or a solid story, and you wouldn't have known. You wouldn't have known the wiser.
No, you wouldn't. And I apologize. I should have mentioned this earlier. What he did was after he suffocated his pregnant wife and kids, he buried his wife in a shallow grave, and then he threw his 2 children in like an oil rig where he worked at this petroleum company. So like on the company property. It's terrible. I'll play just another minute of this.
And it's just earth shattering. I don't feel like this is even real right now. It's like a nightmare that I just can't wake up from.
Chris, when did you learn that they weren't here?
I guess, well, I texted her a few times, called her, I didn't get a response, which that was a little off. And then her friend Nicole showed up about a little afternoon. I see on the doorbell camera. And I was like, hey, what's going on? She's like, I can't get a hold of Shanann. And that's when I was just like, all right, something's not right. If she's not answering the door, and she said the car was here, it's like, I gotta go home. And we got here, got inside, and nobody was here. Nothing.
And so I read that Shanann hadn't taken girls to school, which was unusual.
Yeah, because like Bella was gonna start kindergarten.
Gosh, dude.
It's like a nightmare I can't wake up from. Here's the interesting thing. I think that this is where he actually is telling the truth. Like he knows at this point that what
Yeah.
he did is wrong.
Yeah.
And that's what makes it so believable is that there's little shreds of truth in these statements.
Yeah, you're right. Notice he said it was like a ghost town at home.
Interesting choice of words.
Yeah. And I apologize. That was a oil tank, not oil rig. My bad. But it was on the property where he worked.
Well, it's really sad. And even though obviously like with me, I would like more to happen to him, but I mean, at the end of the day, at least he is not even living the rest of his life in peace. He is having to basically survive in the prison system.
Yeah, think about it every minute of every day for the rest
Yep.
of his miserable life.
Yeah. So good. I mean, I'm at least glad about that, is that he has absolutely no chance of getting out of prison and he's where he should be.
Yep.
So
Absolutely.
So now with my case, I wanted to dive into what is known as the Enfield Poltergeist case. Now, some people are going to recognize this, and if not right off the bat, they're going to recognize it the more that I go into it. And then by the end of it, you'll definitely know exactly what I'm talking about. But this is a very interesting case. Unfortunately, this case happened in the 70s, so there's not really any body camera footage to show. All you're going to get is BBC coverage and maybe news stories. So I'm going to just go ahead and get right into it. So in August of 1977, in the North London town of Enfield, there was a single mother by the name of Peggy Hodgson, and she had four children. She had Margaret, who was 13, Janet, who was 11, Johnny, who was 10, and Billy, who was 7. They lived on 284 Green Street in Enfield. One night, Margaret and Janet began to experience their bed shaking, which resulted in them calling out to their mom. It's disputed as to whether it was the beds that were shaking or if it was the furniture moving around, but either way, Peggy would not believe anything that they said. She would go into their room and she reacted the way that I would say any parent would react. And she would tell them to pipe it down, stop making noise, all that stuff.
Naturally.
And when she was able to settle them down, she moved the furniture back to its original spot. And then once she did that, the furniture moved back on its own. And that's when she was like, absolutely not. So she, after witnessing the paranormal activity herself, they would run to their next door neighbor's house, which would be the Nottingham residence, and they would go for help. Once they returned to their home after being consoled by their neighbors, they would hear knocking and banging from the house's interior, but were unable to find the source of the noise. Police were eventually called in the early hours of the morning on September 1st of 1977. Two officers were dispatched to the scene, which would be Police Constable Caroline Heaps and her sergeant, Sergeant Himes. Constable Heaps witnessed a large chair slide on its own and began inspecting the chair to determine if it had been tampered with. She then conducted a small experiment by placing a marble on the floor to see if there was some sort of slant that caused the chair to move. When she placed the marble on the floor, it didn't move in the direction the chair had moved. And while in the home, she would hear knocking in the house, but of course found no source of the noise. Sergeant Himes, who was with her, would verify the incidents that had occurred during the first response, And on another occasion, Sergeant Himes responded. Uh, on another occasion, whenever he responded to the house, he also heard more knocking, but this was at the Nottingham residence next door, while the children were still over at their home. And he would
Ooh.
later and he would later conclude that something was definitely there, and he was even willing to have the case reopened after it was initially shut. There was a third officer that responded. I tried looking as to who that officer was, and I couldn't find a name. But that third officer responded on a night before more activity had picked up. And when the children were not home, he went through the bedrooms and he saw a clear impression of a body in the bed. We're just unsure of whose bed it was. The impression was precise and deep. This officer also tried to recreate this impression himself, but had failed results. There was mention of a fourth female officer present when the kids were coming home from school and began experiencing paranormal activity, but I couldn't find the details of what occurred or who this officer was either. Many more incidents occurred after police were called, which involved items being thrown around regularly. Janet, the youngest daughter, she started to speak in strange voices, most notably the voice of Bill Wilkins. She would snarl and reported to be thrown around her bedroom. And there are photographs of her where she is in her room in the midair, as if she's like being tossed up.
Oh, wow.
Um, and we'll definitely add photos in the show notes too. There's an article that I have that has the pictures in there. This story would catch the attention of Ed and Lorraine Warren, which would result in them conducting their own investigation. The case would also be known as London's Amityville and would gain enough popularity over time to be the focus of the investigation in The Conjuring 2. The paranormal incident suddenly stopped without any explanation, but there are several theories that surround the abrupt end. There is speculation that Janet was faking Bill Wilkins' voice, but I did watch a very interesting BBC interview, and there was an investigator that concluded that the voice wasn't made by the larynx, which is the voice box, but
Mm-hmm.
by the false vocal fold. So this is only used when you lose your voice and talk with like a scratchy tone. So like the whole my voice is kind of, like that. And so talking like that for a few minutes will absolutely cause a sore throat, and continuously talking like that can cause damage. Janet was reported to speak in that voice for up to 3 hours, although it wasn't 3 consecutive hours, but she would talk like that for a while, and yet no damage was being done to her voice. So that was pretty
Mm.
interesting. Unfortunately, I really wish that I had more on the matter, like as far as like police encounters and things like that. But really, it was just those initial things that I had found. But all the more still very interesting because, they were fully aware that it was a paranormal incident that was happening while they were there.
Yeah, the officer involved, when he reopened the case, like he's like, dude, something's up.
Yeah,
And
he would want to. I don't think that they ever did.
oh, okay. The marble on the floor, I mean, that's some smart thinking there to kind of rule out what the possibilities are. But it made me think of when people suspect like a, poltergeist activity or paranormal activity, they put flour or something on the floor. And then if they see footsteps the next morning or handprints or
Yeah.
something, yeah,
hmm
I'd be scared of that method because I just wouldn't want to wake up and there's footprints.
Yeah, and I'll be honest with you. Some people, of course, we know that there's folks out there that love ghost hunting and they love the thrill of, being scared, and some might even take it a step further to try to communicate. Me being who I am, I, of course, am going to try to deter people from doing that. Um, but for me, if I'm just like trying to investigate, right, like an initial investigation to see if something's there, and then if I put flour in a doorway and then I see footsteps in that flour, I'm done. I have seen enough and I don't need to do any more.
You're like, I'm out.
Like, all right, peace. I got what I need. Are you gonna stay? No. Bye.
Yeah, that would be scary.
Yeah.
I wouldn't know what to think about that. I think handprints would be scarier than footprints, but that's just me. That's just my saturated mind full of
Yeah.
scary stuff.
Yeah. I don't need to see anymore. It is a very interesting case. I think that maybe even covering another, or maybe even looking into more cases that Ed and Lorraine Warren were involved in. I think that'd be cool to do.
Oh
But at
yeah.
the same time, I will also say I'm very skeptical about Ed and Lorraine Warren. So I just want people knowing that I don't put all my eggs in one basket. I'm not one of those people that just automatically believes that something's a paranormal case and that I believe that every claim that comes out that it is that I question it because sometimes there are people out there who do try to put on this facade and people disappoint you. They might be fake. I'm not saying Ed and Lorraine Warren are fake, but I do think that we just need to use some discernment and try to look at the facts and make our own decisions.
Yeah, you got to take it with a grain of salt.
Hmm.
And there could be a logical explanation for these things, but it's hard to tell.
Now, I did have a video that I wanted to show because I saw this like a long time ago and I couldn't believe how long ago this happened. But while I'm pulling it up, this happened in Garden City. I believe this is Garden City, Georgia. Yeah, so this is a police chase in Garden
So late
City.
at night.
This
That's
is the crazy
interesting.
thing. Yeah, you can
Well,
see it doesn't even look transparent. Like it looks like a full on.
I mean, it looks a little boxy, but this is a dash cam? It
Yes.
can't be because it zoomed in though.
I think that was probably just
Oh,
with how close the vehicle got
okay.
to the butt end of the other vehicle. Yeah, he starts swerving all over the road. There's actually one point I'm gonna see if I can because he starts fishtailing really bad. Yeah, and then he starts to like I wonder what kind of car that is.
I don't. I thought it was like a Caprice, but now it doesn't look like it.
So I'm gonna go ahead and speed it up here. And this is when things get a little wild. Wild, right?
Yeah, it's so hard to tell the in there, but it looks like it just went through the fence.
Yeah, my wife could not wrap her head around what she saw.
Like it just car went through the fence. It didn't go through it because the police car stopped.
Yeah, he had to like slam on his brakes to prevent from driving into the fence. So like how do you explain that? Like what do
Uh,
you think that is?
and you said it was the 70s?
This no. So the Enfield Poltergeist incident happened in the 70s.
Okay.
This happened in the 90s, I believe.
Okay.
Let
What to
me
say? I was like, I didn't think they would have dash cams in the that early, but
maybe the
um
late 90s, early 2000s.
yeah, that looks about right. I it's like the little girl running down the stairs in Chris Watts case. I don't know what to think about that. You know, it clearly happened, but was there any follow up about the investigation,
In regards to
the vehicle pursuit?
oh no. Oh, and this happened in 1997.
Wow.
I didn't the only thing that I could find in reference to this was basically just the footage and then it was basically just the footage and there was like there's no other thing. Maybe I need to look a little deeper.
That's crazy though.
Yeah, still very
Where did it go?
cool.
Where did it go? Was it a DeLorean that we saw?
Yeah, maybe it was chasing after Marty McFly. But then
Yeah.
again, the Mandalorian wasn't.
DeLorean.
Yeah, it wasn't. The DeLorean. Did I say Mandalorian
Yeah, he
already?
said Mandalorian. I was like, wait,
Oh,
did I say
jeez.
Mandalorian?
No, the DeLorean.
Yeah.
What's wrong with me? Yeah, yeah. Yeah. Maybe the DeLorean was what he was looking at.
Maybe.
So, so yeah, it happened in 1997, which is, and it's wild that because that's actually pretty decent. It's actually
Mm-hmm.
pretty decent footage for that long ago.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
They now there's a song. It's like a it's like a retro wave sort of thing, or like one of those modern day like 80s feel kind of songs. There's a song by an artist called Kavinsky. The name of the song is Pacific Coast Highway, and in that song they play the exact news footage from the video. Like they play the journalist's voice, and I just thought it was really cool that they had a song pretty much dedicated to that incident. So
Mm.
anybody that wants to look that up, check it out. It's a still pretty cool thing. Now, I also wanted to get into some stories that I found on Police One from law enforcement. They're just like little short stories, but I wanted to share these. And before I do, I want to invite any law enforcement officer or anybody that knows a law enforcement officer that does have a story to share about an incident that happened while on duty. If you could please call in or even send us an email in regards to that, we would absolutely love to hear it because that is really interesting stuff. And there's nothing more interesting than hearing a first responder or police officer telling about something paranormal that happened on duty. If you could just please go ahead and call 972-836-6234, we would really appreciate it. So I'm going to
Yes,
go
we would.
ahead. So I'm going to go ahead and read a few of these stories here. This one's kind of chilling. This was actually a 911 dispatcher. So the call started like any other. A veteran 911 dispatcher with more than 2 decades on the job picked up the line to hear a frantic family asking for immediate help. They claimed their teenage daughter was under the influence of something evil and insisted she had no history of drugs or mental illness. The dispatcher had heard that line many times before and didn't put much stock in it. As the dispatcher gathered information, a chaotic mix of shouting and screaming poured through the phone. It sounded like at least two people yelling over one another. The dispatcher instructed the caller to tell whoever was shouting to stop that so they could communicate clearly. But the caller responded with something the dispatcher didn't expect. It's her. Thinking the caller misunderstood, the dispatcher clarified that they meant the other person yelling, the deeper voice, but the caller repeated, almost panicked, "It's her. Both voices are her." That stopped the dispatcher cold. Over the line, two distinct voices overlapped, one that sounded like a distraught teenage girl and another that resembled a full-grown man, forceful and guttural. The two voices didn't alternate, they happened at the exact same time, speaking in tones and sounds the dispatcher couldn't identify as any language. Nothing in the dispatcher's long career, not violence, not trauma, not the worst of human cruelty, had ever sounded like this. The hair stood up on the back of their neck. Later, when things had calmed and recording was reviewed, the lieutenant listened quietly. After a long pause, he glanced at the dispatcher and asked, "Ever wonder?" And the dispatcher said, "Yes, yes, I do." Who would have ever thought that that they would be the first one to hear a possible demonic possession taking place whenever they were answering a 911 call?
Dispatchers have a really hard job. They're the masters of multitasking, but I cannot imagine trying to answer and respond to a phone call and try to decipher what's going on, and then you throw something like that into the mix. It's chaos.
It just kind of made me think it would be interesting if police departments actually had like exorcists on like speed dial.
Well, I mean, they have well, it depends on the size of the department, but they have, chaplains. And a lot of times now they're actually a certified officer, but I mean,
So I don't know about so chaplains depending on so a lot of the time you'll see that chaplains are voted in by like maybe the FOP, like the
mm,
Fraternal Order of Police. I guess it depends on the department.
mhm.
Some of them might have a chaplain that the police department already has that works with them. But you got to remember, like, just because they're a chaplain doesn't necessarily, like, if they're a chaplain with the police department, that doesn't necessarily mean that they're like spiritually equipped to handle that kind of thing.
Mhm.
Because in most cases, like, it's just they hire on a chaplain, so then that way, whenever they have like some sort of function, they have someone to pray before they start the function or something. It's not really anything beyond that, but it would be interesting if they had like a legitimate pastor or a priest on speed dial and be like, "Do you think you could handle this? Who are you gonna call?
Yeah, that would be cool, but
We're gonna send Van Helsing over there."
Van Helsing. Yeah, that would be cool. Yeah, I know that. I think if a chaplain I can think of on one of the local police departments, I think if they asked him to go handle a paranormal case, he'd probably say, "What? What do you mean? What do you mean she's levitating? Just
Who,
arrest
you-
her."
who you gonna call? Somebody else.
Yeah, somebody else. Call the state. Um.
Call
So
the coroner.
yeah, the corner. Yeah, yeah. There you go.
There's probably a lot of paranormal stories that officers are having or experiencing that they're just like not telling people. So all the more reason to please, if you guys have a story or if you have a situation that you would like to tell us about, even if it's not necessarily paranormal, but just something weird out of the ordinary that you
Yeah.
experienced, please
Yes.
send the story our way. We would love to hear whatever it
Yes.
is that you want to tell us.
And I do have a story that's actually from a police officer that I know. He has since transferred to a different department, but he worked in Kokomo, Indiana, and he was the superior officer in this case. And he said the two officers beneath him reported this to him. And so he said there was a welfare check called by neighbors to check on their elderly neighbor. They hadn't seen her in about over a week. So people across the street said, "We haven't seen her. Can you go check on her?" They send two officers out, and the officers go to the house. And this is broad daylight too. This isn't the middle of the night, witching hour or anything. One officer goes to the front of the house. One officer goes to the back of the house. He said it was a small house where they could see from the front door to the back. And they're looking for the old woman, so they peek inside, and they see her, and she's in a nightgown walking around in the living room. And so they start knocking on the door like, "Hey, come here, come talk to us." She kind of ignores them and keeps walking around, and they're banging, and then she just disappears. And so they go, "Okay, great." So he said they forced entry a little bit later, and they found her inside, but they found her in the hallway, and she was dead. So the strange part about this is when they had the coroner come out, the coroner said she had been dead for a week. They both saw her walking around. They both wrote it that way in the report, and it's one of those unexplained things. Just wild, dude. Totally wild. It makes me think of the girl in the Chris Watts case that ran down the stairs. I mean, to me, that looks like it's the same idea. It's almost like the person who has passed. It's like an apparition of them is still there,
Hmm.
you know. And even the excuse me, the officer that told me this was still. He just shrugged his shoulders, like I don't know, you know. Like he trusted both the guys. It's what happened. It is what it is.
It's like you're leaving a, I guess, spiritual footprint of
Yeah,
yourself behind,
yeah,
you know.
true.
Uh, and I was also gonna say too, like I'm glad that he had another officer with him, that he wasn't by himself, or else other people would probably think he was nuts.
Oh yeah, they wouldn't believe him. Yeah.
No.
Oh, Yeah, thankfully. And it was broad daylight. So, I mean, yeah.
So I want to try to tell one more. So there was a deputy working the county roads in the early morning hours, and he found himself in one of those situations where he needed to use the bathroom. And so he, instead of driving to the nearest bathroom, which would have been half an hour away, around 3 a.m., he pulled his patrol vehicle on a remote gravel lane, the kind of place where headlights disappear into trees and everything feels a little too quiet. He stepped out to take care of his business beside the cruiser. Less than a minute in, an uneasy feeling crept over him, the unmistakable sensation of being watched. Instinctively, he glanced toward the rear of his vehicle, about 20 feet beyond the back bumper. Standing motionless in the darkness was a tall, human-shaped silhouette, a solid black figure. No details, no movement. He stopped midstream, zipped up quickly, and called out, assuming it had to be a homeowner wondering why a stranger was relieving himself in their driveway, and yet there was no response. He tried again, this time apologizing and identifying himself as law enforcement. Still nothing. No movement, no voice, no acknowledgement. The deputy the deputy's training kicked in. He shifted into command mode and ordered the figure to show his hands and give him a name. The shadow didn't react at all. It just stood there, featureless and still. Realizing how strange the whole situation was, he reached for his flashlight and swept the beam across the area. Then the figure vanished. There were no footsteps, no crunch of gravel, no brush moving, nothing to suggest a person had run off. It was simply gone between one heartbeat and the next. Trying to stay calm, the deputy turned to get back into his unit. Before he opened the door, he glanced over his shoulder one more time and froze. The same dark shape was back. This time it was closer, gliding toward him from the exact spot where he'd last seen it disappear. And that was enough. The deputy jumped into his patrol car, slammed the door, and sped out of there as fast as he could. He didn't bother reaching for his weapon because whatever he saw was not going to be resolved by a firearm, and he never returned to that road again during the night shift.
He doesn't know. If it couldn't be resolved, he didn't try.
Yeah, he didn't try.
Um,
He could have used a vacuum cleaner if he had one.
that was that would creep me out. I mean, I could visualize that. Like, hey, sorry, sir, I'm had to use a restroom. You're like, I'm talking to you, and you think, oh gosh. I'd be like, I'm out of here.
I'd be like, I think a pervert's watching me.
Yeah. Yeah, dude. That's well, that may be real. It's possible.
Yeah, I think that one's more believable. And another thing too is there's two things that don't mix well with the dark, and that is children and old people. And to see and to see an old person's face kind of like smashed up against a window like that, yeah, I would scream. I'd probably even fire off a shot or two out of
No, I
fear.
would have drawn my gun for sure. If
Yeah.
I would have been it's believable because you think, oh shoot, you know what I mean? The homeowner's here. I'm like, sorry, sir. And they're like, hey, I'm really sorry about that. Like, I'd be like, what's your problem, man? And then if I said, identify yourself, and I draw that thing, and then I don't know.
Hello?
Yeah. Mom? So we have a few movies here that involve police and the paranormal. And those are Deliver Us from Evil, Last Shift, Men in Black, maybe.
I don't know.
Maybe. It's kind of iffy, but there weren't a lot. There's some other ones I'm not going to mention because I've never even heard of them. But I want to talk just a little bit about Deliver Us from Evil. It stars Eric Bana. Did you see that one?
Yeah.
So, detective teams up with the priest. It's in the Bronx, in New York, right? There's like a string of possessions. That was a really scary movie.
Yeah, I remember whenever that movie first came out. It was like 2015,
Yeah,
2016,
yeah.
something like that. Uh, based on a true story, actually.
Yeah,
Um,
which makes it even scarier.
which, okay, so obviously Hollywood heavily dramatized a lot of that stuff. But the real guy, Ralph Sarchie, you can look up his story and it's actually really fascinating. You know, I think he was a detective sergeant. He did experience a lot of paranormal stuff. He actually became Catholic, I believe, and he actually started assisting with exorcisms. Um, but really interesting stuff. He did a lot of interviews whenever the movie came out, but I would heavily recommend at least just checking out his story because it's just really cool. Um, overall, decent scary movie. If you're looking for something to give you the heebie-jeebies, I would probably recommend that one.
Isn't there a scene in the beginning of the film where he's at a zoo? I thought they go to a zoo and it's at night and there's a possessed man there.
Possessed Lady.
Possessed lady.
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
where they
that was
pick
it.
her up.
Yeah, that was a pretty chilling scene.
Yeah, and interestingly enough, Joel McHale's in that movie too.
Hmm. It's been a minute since I've seen it.
Yeah, I remember too much whenever it comes to movies.
You're really good at your movie IQ is through the roof.
Yeah, thank you. Um, The Exorcist 3.
There's a
Um,
third one?
yeah, it's like one of the least popular ones.
Gosh, I didn't know that.
Um, so I know that that movie is with George C. Scott. He plays a detective. Um, I I watched it briefly. I didn't watch it from beginning to end. Um, but like I guess he's trying to investigate a case that involved the original Exorcist from the first movie or something like that. And he was trying to tie a murder with all that stuff. I don't know, but
Hmm.
um, did I say George C. Scott?
I don't know.
I don't think that's the right. Dang, I'm good. Yeah, it was George C. Scott. Yeah, so he plays a detective in that movie. It was one of Jeffrey Dahmer's favorite movies.
Of course it was.
That one is no one, I don't think anybody really cares about that movie.
Yeah, that's why I was shocked. I didn't know there was a third one.
Yeah. Yeah. I can't really
Straight to
think of
VHS.
probably. Yeah, I can't really think of any. Oh, you know what? Angel Heart.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Mickey Rourke, Robert De Niro, and Lisa Bonet. Yeah.
You were
He's
like a walking, breathing IMDb, dude.
well, I
Unless
had
you're
to
reading it off the screen.
well, no, I actually went ahead and looked up the female's name.
Gotcha.
But yeah, so he's a private investigator. He's investigating a missing persons situation, and then he ends up coming across a character by the name of Louis Cypher, played by Robert De Niro. I'm sure you can probably gather what they were picking at.
Okay, so our last discussion point here. Why do you think it's important for these cases to be talked about?
Well, because for one, like I think people need to understand that, like, regardless of what they believe, there's something out there, and I think that whenever we have documented evidence or documented footage, whether it's video or written reports, um, there's, I think that it just kind of confirms that there is something paranormal. One case that we didn't talk about, that is highly well known is the house in Gary, Indiana by the Ammons. The
Yeah.
police were heavily involved in that one. The only reason why I didn't go into that one is because um, I feel like it's just already extremely talked about. Um, but I also know that it was heavily a demonic incident that took place. And yeah, the police were also uh, really involved in that one. I don't know if you guys want us to actually look into that case, let us know.
Let us know. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I initially didn't really care to look into it, but if you guys
Yeah.
do want us to cover it a little thoroughly, then we will. We'll do what you guys are requesting. But um, also, we'd like to know what your opinions are on all of these things. We want to hear from the audience. We want to engage with you. So, what do you guys think? What do you guys think is important? Just let us know. Leave a comment.
Yeah. Yeah. We want to get the conversation going because we want to know your thoughts on these things. We want to know your stories. We just want the dialogue to begin between us and you and others as well, because there's nothing more fun than to check out the comment section of a video that you like, and then you see the replies, and then it just begins. It's a great way to share information and stories. And you know, I love hearing about these stories because I'm sure a lot of law enforcement officers feel they probably can't share too much, whether it's like a professional barricade or whatnot. But the fact that I'm sure they would love to tell people the real or their perspective of something paranormal or unexplained. And there's lots of taboo behind it. But yeah, there's nothing more relieving than like telling someone how you feel about something. So yeah, if we could give a voice to those people, that'd be great. We'd love to hear it.
I think that is a really good point, is giving people a voice, making sure that they're heard, and that's the biggest thing. That's why we want to do this as well,
Yep.
is because we don't want anyone thinking that they're going crazy.
Mhm.
Because unfortunately, as time goes on, human nature is just it's been consistent throughout. Like what we tend to do is we try to rationalize things and try to come up with some explanation, but there's times whenever you can't.
Mhm.
And sometimes the truth is stranger than fiction. Well, that was episode 7 of the I Can't Move podcast. If you like what you heard, then please like, subscribe, leave a comment, follow us on our social media accounts, which would be on YouTube, Spotify, TikTok, Instagram, all the good stuff. And please, we would love to hear from you guys. We want to interact with you. We thank you so much for all the subscribers that have subscribed. And just a reminder, please call us at 972 836 6234. Peace.
Peace.